Okay, I would like to call the meeting to order, please. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Anstandig?
Here.
Councilmember Rogers?
Here.
Councilmember Turner? Here. Councilmember Wolsheimer?
Here.
And Mayor Craig?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any changes to the orders of the day?
No, there are not.
Okay, and at this time, we are at oral communications. At this point, anybody in the audience who would like to speak on any topic that is not on the agenda can come forth and do so. And seeing none, before we move on, though, I do want to just kind of put a placeholder in because Jack Lucas, who is on the board of the West Valley College and the president of the West Valley College, would like to come in and speak with us for a couple minutes on Measure W, which is a bond program that they're putting together to expand the college. They're currently at the Los Gatos Town Council meeting, and I told them I would try to fit them in as soon as they got here. So hopefully we won't have any
Come on in.
objections to that. So with that, we'll move to written communications. And I think we have just some of these emails that we've all received. And that takes us to the consent calendar. Do I have any changes to the consent calendar? Or if not, I will ask for a motion to approve it.
I don't have it on my thing.
Okay. So waiting for our motion button. Motion button
No, I don't have a
not
motion
come up
button.
yet.
Oh, she has to crank it up.
No.
Like 15 minutes of fame making
No.
a motion.
Prove you were here.
Yeah, really. I make a verbal motion.
Sure.
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
And I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So by the way, congratulations to our new Site and Architecture Commissioners. Thank you very much for volunteering for another term.
There's the motion button.
Okay, great. So item number 6, proposed changes to the city's tree preservation regulations. And I think, Jeannie, you look like you're starting up and ready to give us a staff report.
Yeah. Again, it's my pleasure to be before you all. As stated in the staff report, if you can recall, back in March of this year, we came before you with some information and some thoughts on our tree preservation regulations and what other cities do, and got some initial direction from the council on what they'd like to see. I've subsequently also taken that to Site and Architecture, since they are one of the decision-making bodies related to the tree removal requests, to get their input also and/or concurrence with the direction that council gave us. What I have put together, which is in the staff report, is kind of this matrix, which has what the council direction was from that initial discussion, what Site and Architecture thought about that, and if they had any additional comments, and then based on those, what staff would recommend. So, we can go through them individually, or if you guys have any questions on any of the staff recommendations or further direction, I think that's our hope, is that comes out of the discussion.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I see a question from Councilmember Wilsheimer.
What is the reason for the distinction between the various types of eucalyptus trees? The
Well,
blue, red gum, and the hillside.
yeah, so most people don't realize that is a whole range of eucalyptus trees. Some are beautiful ones used in landscape that are not the self-shedding type ones, and they have, a lot of value to the landscape. The ones that are considered the fire hazards and that you typically see in our landscape that were used as windbreaks and found their way into the riparian corridors are the blue gum and the red gum, and those are the ones that grow really tall. They're pretty. They don't have a very strong structure, and they're self-shedding. Mm-hmm. So there is. I went through and I looked them up. Although I'm only a planter, I've dealt with trees for 30 years. I did a lot of tree removals in San Jose, and there are a lot of varieties of eucalyptus that are used in commercial landscaping, in residential landscaping, some really for purpose of their aroma. They are very aromatic, yet don't have the shedding bark and don't have the same sort of litter that the blue and the red gum eucalyptus have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Jeannie? Yes, Councilmember Anstanding.
With respect to the penalties for removal without a permit, Site and Architecture recommended a significant increase to 1,000, and you came back, or not, maybe not you, but staff came back with 200. I was just wondering what the thoughts were about that distinction.
I'm going to be so bold as to say, a lot of times those penalties are not imposed on people. It really is having them come in for a permit so that we can get that mitigation, which may be, 2 trees for every one or more. We can do a penalty whether or not, it's 1,000 or 200. The question is, what is the direction going to be as far as imposition of it? Since I've been here, there has not been a fine. I think most people are understanding of the regulations. The couple trees that I've seen that have been removed without benefit of a permit it was not intentional to take a tree out that they thought they wouldn't get approved to take out. So again, I think the city's position is to really try to work with things with the property owners. If we do get the fine, I guess it goes into the general. I don't have the attorney here, but my assumption is it goes into the general fund.
It does.
Because a lot of times when cities do impose the fines, it'll go into a specific fund to go into tree plantings in the public right-of-way or stuff. This city really doesn't have that, so it would just go into the general fund.
2 follow-ups to that. Who makes the decision about assessing a fine or not assessing a fine if it's discovered that a tree is removed without being properly permitted?
It may be a collective decision on our part as far as, did the act really, rise to the, was it truly an event that warranted a fine? Was it done with malice or something like that?
I think some of the things that we might consider would be, there are occasionally folks who just don't know that we have particular regulations. It's not uncommon. I think, sometimes we take that into consideration. In general, the city of Monte Sereno is is fairly gentle when it comes to enforcement and fining. But I think that if, we do have a situation, which I believe we've not had since you've been here.
Not since
where
I've been
it's
here,
very,
but-
very egregious, where they definitely knew the regulations and, just blatantly didn't follow them, we certainly would fine them in those cases.
So when you say "we," who's "we"? Is that,
Well,
I
we
mean,
as
who
the
makes
ci- I say
who
we
makes
as
the
in the
decision?
city.
Who makes the decision?
Well, it is, sometimes it's a coordination between Jeannie, code enforcement
It-
officer.
The fine really has to be imposed through an administrative citation, so that would be a code enforcement. I think the code enforcement officer would consult with either myself and/or the attorneys or other before,
The reason I'm asking is, we're still plagued with a lawsuit over fences that weren't done in compliance with our city code from, long ago. And it was determined that the individual would be fined, and that's what led to this crazy lawsuit that we've been fighting it with. It's still in the courts. And I just wanted to clarify who it was that makes the decision, and then if a decision's made, is there any appeal right that comes to the council to either say that it was assessed correctly or not? Or?
Yes, there is an appeal of a situation, if a fine is imposed through administrative remedy, the person who's been fined, can appeal that decision. Typically, we have a code enforcement officer that's part-time that currently comes once every 2 weeks for an 8-hour shift. And as part of her being here, I have instructed her, and we've started, she comes and she meets with me, and we kind of go through the cases to see how, what's going on and what's happening and how we should be proceeding. But many times, of course, we work in concert with Jeannie, depending on if it's a land use issue, in this case, a tree permit, or if it's a, building code violation, we work with Rob. But there's definitely a coordinated effort there. But yes, if in the event an individual is fined, they do have recourse, and in this city, the adjudicating body is the city council.
Okay. I guess the other question I have goes to the third page of the handout, and it's the clarification of the appeal process related to tree removal permit. And the city council or site and architecture provided no input on that issue. And here's where I got confused. It says clarify that there is no appeal of an administrative decision by staff as allowed by the code. And then the second bullet point says include reference to the appeal. So it
Yeah,
sounded like
so-
there was appeal, but there
So let
isn't.
me explain. So one of the directions that we're going to go in with some of these changes, more specifically when we create a list of undesirable trees or state that you can remove a dead tree, we didn't want them just to remove them without us acknowledging that, yes, in fact, it is dead, and yes, that is, one of the undesirable trees. So we're still going to require them to apply for tree removal for us to validate that it is dead and/or it is on the list of undesirable trees, and that would be acted on by staff, so in an administrative capacity. If they were to apply to remove a dead tree, and it was a deciduous tree and it's the dead of winter, and I wasn't convinced that it was dead, and they didn't want to submit an arborist report to say it was dead despite it being in the middle of winter, I would not approve that. Their remedy is to apply for a site development permit to go in front of site and architecture. So that's what's meant by clarify that there's no appeal of my decision to deny that request to remove the dead tree because we couldn't prove that it was. Their remedy is not an appeal. Their remedy is to apply for another removal permit to go in front of the decision-making body. Then if the site and architecture doesn't agree and they deny it, then there's the appeal process starts from there. And then also in the existing language, to kind of address maybe what you thought wasn't real clear, was to really just kind of work with all that language. And so there'll be some new language going in related to if they do want to remove a dead tree or an undesirable tree, they can't just do it without coming through a process, similar to a lot of other cities. we have the list, and it's not going to cost anything, but you still have to go through that process with, basically over the counter with staff.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Councilmember Rogers, Councilmember Turner? Yes, Councilmember
I have
Wilson.
a follow-up question. The list of undesirable trees, will that be tied into the permit process for new developments or remodels also? Sometimes people come up with a plan for development. Will they be told that these are trees that we find undesirable?
You know, most people are not planting tulip trees anymore because, again, they're just susceptible to pests, and they, you know, get messy and whatnot. You know, again, you tend not to see a lot of people planting the eucalyptus or the acacia or the tulip or tree of heaven. You're going to still get people planting palms, probably. So it's not that they can't plant these necessarily, especially like palms, but if people want to remove them, we're not going to keep them from it. I haven't seen anybody, including, you know, the blue or red gum eucalyptus or the acacias. There are different varieties of acacias and different varieties of pine trees that some will plant. You're not really seeing those as much. And fruit trees, again, you know, they tend to be, you know, more minor in nature, and there's not any more left really in an orchard form.
and
So
I'd
I'm
also-
not seeing a lot of them included in landscape plans, but it's not necessarily specific to say you can't do it, but I'm also not seeing people choosing those trees. to
And
include in
the
them.
one thing that I would add is, you know, we do have full discretion, staff, sometimes through the Site and Architectural Commission, over the planting palette for a project, and I'm sure Jeannie would agree, we would not, you know, be moving forward with approvals for trees that we are considered a hazard, especially when it comes to like eucalyptus. Some of the others not necessarily, but particularly for ones that are a hazard.
Thank you.
Okay. I had just a couple of questions, and then we'll move on to public comment if there's no more questions from council. You were talking about the appeal process with Councilmember Anstanding, and I just wanted to make sure I understood that. You said that if staff denies a tree removal of one of these conditions, that their recourse is to file a site and architecture permit then.
Yeah.
So they would have to pull that, but would they then have to pay the full site and architecture fee?
The $100.
Okay,
That's all it is,
okay,
which is pretty minor as far as the
Right.
work that, yeah.
okay,
Yeah, so the over-the-counter ones is still no fee, but going in front of site and architecture is $100.
okay. And then in regards to the trees, we had talked about not requiring a replacement tree. Was that something that I missed, or was that discussed at all?
For the dead or the undesirables?
Correct. If you're removing an undesirable tree, that you would not be required to actually replace it.
Okay. Now, I will bring up, you know, in the case of some of the eucalyptus, some can be some larger stands. So it's, again, I think a lot of people just generally want to replant.
Right.
But I think maybe someone brought up that one hillside where there were a lot of eucalyptus removed, but nothing's been put in their place. And, you know, not only could it add to the aesthetics of that hillside, but, you know, provide some stability of the hillside too. So it's, you know,
With everything, I think there should be a balancing act. I just wanted people to feel comfortable that they wouldn't have this large expenditure that they're facing if they were to remove the only large eucalyptus tree on their property and go, wow, I'd sure do that, but I've got to spend $6,000-7,000 on a compatible replacement tree.
yeah. I mean,
But if somebody's clear cutting their entire piece of property, I think that there definitely should be some discretion there of saying, we do need some replanting
I mean,
there.
right now, we don't have a codified replacement. It is at staff discretion.
Okay,
So, and whenever I've kind of looked at the removal, the over-the-counter ones, when it's either a dead tree, which we've considered a hazard, or under utility lines, you know, quite honestly, it really is a case by case that I look at the site, I look at how forested the site is, I look whether it's a more manicured landscape versus the hillside landscapes and stuff like that. So I try to reach that balance where it may be appropriate to put a replacement tree. If it's dead or undesirable, typically a lot of these are going to be, 1 to 3 trees at the most. Some of the eucalyptus, like we saw with that one site at the end of Bachman, there were a number of eucalyptus. And then at the back of here on Saratoga Sunnyvale Road. And I don't think you guys required a 1-to-1, but there was some, reasonable replacement because one of the settings was along a creek. So I think if we could, just continue to use our discretion with reason, because just an automatic 1-to-1 or you never have to do it. Sometimes we're going to find ourselves in a situation where, well, we wish we could have been a little more reasonable and said, no, you don't have to, or we'd like to see 1 or 2 trees.
okay, very good. At this point, I'd like to open it up for public comment. I don't have any blue cards on this matter, but would anybody from the public like to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to staff for either other questions, discussions. Where do we go from here? I think it's just kind of giving direction.
Yes, I would just ask Jeannie, I think we got enough direction to turn this into
Yeah, I
an
mean, I think,
ordinance?
it just to, make sure that as you've gone through what we've recommended, do you see anything that you don't agree with or you'd like anything different? I haven't heard that there's anything different.
Yes, Councilmember Branstanding.
I would suggest the $1,000 fine. I think that unfortunately in our community, paying $200 is a lot easier than coming down and getting permission from a lot of people. And I think using your discretion, you'll be able to tell the distinction between somebody who's being derelict and not following the rules.
Well, and just to clarify, even if they're fined, they still have to come in to get a tree removal permit.
Okay.
And I think moving forward with the clarifications in the code, it's going to be required that regardless of whether it was removed without benefit of a permit, they have to come in after the fact and go in front of Site and Architecture. Some people feel it's a little odd, but that's where the decision-making body can also say, well, given the tree that was removed and given the prominence that it had, maybe we want to see 2-to-1 replacement. So the fine can be what it is, but it doesn't relieve them of having to come through and get a tree removal permit approved by Site and Architecture.
So I would ask, is there a consensus of the council to raise it to 1,000 so we'll know how to draft the ordinance?
I agree.
I was in favor of that. That's
Okay,
what I was
so
raising my
we have a majority.
Yeah.
So we'll draft it at that. Whether any of the other recommendations, were there any changes you'd like to see?
I'm not an arborist. I don't know. Looks good.
Okay,
I like it.
all right,
Thank you
so,
very much for this.
absolutely. So we'll draft up an ordinance with the changes, and we'll bring that back to you for your review and adoption.
Yeah, good
Okay.
job, guys.
Thank you.
Very good. And we have just finished with an item, so I see our former Honorable Jack Lucas showing up. Jack, good timing. And we actually just finished an agenda item, and I said I'd try to fit you in as soon as we could. So would you like to just go right to the Would you like to just go right to the podium and introduce your item?
Okay, catch my breath here.
Catch your breath.
Well, I'm going to introduce the president of West Valley College and let him lead off. We're well aware of the 3-minute time span that we have. And then I will follow Brad. He's a tough act to follow, but I think I can pull it off. I should get you out of here by 9:15.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Just get us out before the restaurants close. Hello.
Mayor, members of City Council, thank you very much for having me. For those of I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name's Brad Davis. I'm the president of West Valley College. And I come to you tonight with an information item. It's regarding our Yes on Measure W campaign. West Valley College will be seeking Phase 3 of its 3-part educational and facilities master plan. So this is a facilities bond. It is going to be split evenly between West Valley College and Mission College in Santa Clara. It is for $698 million, which equates to $17 per 100,000 of assessed value. The main thrust is to finish our library, which is over 50 years old, the creation of a wellness complex that will be open to members of the community, as well as the final phases of our STEM and our fine arts facilities, in addition to more infrastructure than I could ever bore you with in one program. But our water mains, our sewer mains, everything underneath the ground of the campus needs to be taken care of as well. So I know that you can't take any action on this. I really just wanted to apprise you of the program, seek your partnership in any way moving forward, and of course to answer any questions that any of you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Okay, so seeing none, thank you very much for coming in tonight.
It's my
Sure
pleasure.
appreciate it. I visited the college when they just opened up their new, and I'm sorry, I can never get the name of the building right. The
Shea School of Professional Studies.
School of Professional Studies. It's a great school, and met with a number of their professors there, one of them happening to be 2 council members from Saratoga, and they're very excited about the programs that are going on over there, and I really think you guys are doing a great job there.
With the impaction of the UCs and the CSU, we are seeing more students than ever from Saratoga, Los Gatos, and Monte Sereno. Los Gatos is our #1 feeder school right now, so we are indeed serving the communities nearest to the college.
Yeah. And just for full disclosure, my daughter signed up there this year, so she's taking computer science studies there. So, and I think she'll end up with Howard as a professor pretty soon.
Howard.
Yes.
Howard. Thank you so very much for your time.
Yes, he teaches there. So does Manny. Manny teaches business.
Like Manny to be my teacher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Jack Lucas. I'm a former mayor and council member for the city of Monte Sereno. I see you've still got my bird up. When I bought that, I didn't buy it. The people did. We had a bet how long that would stay there before it came down, and I'm so pleased that the quail is still there. And I am currently a trustee for the West Valley Mission Community College District. I just want to say hello. I just want to thank you for being our partners. There are 7 cities within the West Valley Mission Community College District. Some of them we have all of the cities. I used to think we had all of Monte Sereno, but when we went to districting, what we have now is we split right down Winchester. I lost half of Los Gatos, and there's that flag lot of Monte Sereno that crosses Winchester. That might not be in my district, District 6, but we are governed by district now. We used to be at large. And I've been proud, our our board of trustees and past board of trustees have been very proud of the relationship we've worked hard that we have with the 7 cities that comprise West Valley Mission. And just want to let you know that we're going to stay with that as much as we can. I hope that you will feel free to contact me. I can answer questions. I cannot speak for as you know, I can't speak for the Board of Trustees, but I'll give you my personal opinion for what it's worth. And anyway, I miss Monte Sereno. 20 years here, it was a great run, and I won't be back, I don't think. But anyway, thanks again thank you for showing up at the Shea dedication, and that's it. looking forward to continued relations with the city of Monte Sereno.
Thank you very much. And I just have to say that a few years ago, we actually had an agenda item to talk about modernizing the sign, and the residents came to the defense of the word.
I got
Leave it, leave it.
booed
Whoa, why did you get booed?
because I was the one that wanted to change the thing. Sorry, Jack.
Curtis, Curtis. We paid a lot of money for that. I'm going to leave you one more claim to fame. I designed the desk that you're sitting here. Andrea, somewhere between Andrea and Sue, they have the plans. I was at a very boring graduation, middle college, and so on the program, I designed this very crudely, gave it to Sue. Sue gave it to her husband. He came in and he built the dais, and I see it's still standing.
Still standing.
A little bit of history. I'm a walking history book. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm looking for the red light here, but
No, it's all electronic now.
wow.
Still have 58 seconds.
Anyway, best of luck to all of you, and thank you for what you do for my city, what you do for West Valley Mission Community College District.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack.
You know, I ran into Don Wimberly we just came from Los Gatos. You remember Don? Anyone know Don Wimberly? That's going back a few years. Yeah, I ran into him at, I don't know what he was doing at Los Gatos, but he had a gripe of somewhat. And so he's there still speaking probably right now. Nice guy, first manager that I knew. Thanks again, folks.
All right.
Bye.
Yes, Javed.
I just wanted to share with Honorable Jack Lucas that I was on the Board of Trustees of West Valley Mission Community College back in 1992. And it's a tremendous college. I came to America, I attended a community college, which was my first college to attend, and they serve a great purpose. So I wish you good luck on your W-2.
Well, thank you. You weren't on the board when I was there.
1992 now. You probably came in right after.
Yeah, I think, anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, good luck in your campaign.
Thank you, guys. All right, so this officially closes our open mic night. And we're going to move on to item number 7, which is a request to join the U.S. versus California amicus brief regarding pro-immigrant California laws challenged by the federal administration. And did you want me to just move right into this, Terry? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we received an email, and the email was included in our packet, and I think we all received a copy of it, from a group called Siren. And what they're trying to do is recruit cities to sign on to an amicus brief that was prepared by a number of cities. Some of the Bay Area cities were Santa Clara and Mountain View and San Jose and East Palo Alto. And what they're looking for is just support for this amicus brief. And I did not feel comfortable just signing it myself. I thought that the council should have a chance to weigh in on it. I know this is a very contentious subject, and I just wanted everyone to have a chance to weigh in on it. So I would like to answer any questions you may have of it, first of all. And if not, I would like to open it up for questions or discussion. Councilmember Turner.
Yes, is there a cost to this?
There is no cost to this. We just send a letter and our name gets added to it.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Councilmember Rogers, you look like you want to say
There's
something.
so much I want to say about this, but I'll pass.
You're going to pass?
Yeah.
Okay. So, at this time, yes, no?
Yeah, no, I have a
Go ahead.
comments.
I'm sorry.
So, you know, this is pretty unique because I think this is the first time that since I've been on council where we've been asked to weigh in on an issue that is of a clearly national nature that is pretty far and outside the scope of our typically I wouldn't say the jurisdiction, but it's outside the scope typically of what we deal with. here in the city. And and I've read the three comments, or the three letters, emails that we received, and then there was another email that we received from, I think, Kathy Smith, that was, and all four of them are opposed, that they don't want us to weigh in on this and be speaking on behalf of all the city. And I don't know that when we make decisions that we're necessarily always speaking on behalf of all the city, because we're making decisions in our representative capacities based on what we think, and that's kind of how we were all elected. And I looked at the City Council role, vision, and values document that we prepared back last year, actually, to see if there was anything in there that might say that this is something we should or shouldn't weigh in on. And there's nothing particularly on point that tells us that this is something that we need to do or should do. But personally, I totally support the effort that's behind the amicus brief, and I think that it's I think personally it's the right thing to do. And I know that we don't have our own police department, so to speak. I mean, the town of Los Gatos has its police department that would be really dealing with this issue about undocumented folks who are in the United States. And I just think that the position that the current administration's taken is just abhorrent when it comes to looking at civil rights issues, and especially of this nature with respect to immigration. So I, for one, think that this is the right thing to do. And I'm termed out, so I can't be. It's even too late to try to recall me. So I don't mind. I don't mind taking the lead and saying that I think that this is something that we should do, and I think that we speak as our individual selves as representatives of the city, and like every other issue that we deal with, people don't always agree with us. So I don't know that we're going to ever seek a unanimous position on an issue like this, and probably tonight among the council members we may differ as well. So in any event, those are my thoughts and comments.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm going to say a couple of things. I read this. I've been thinking about this. I'm 100% in agreement with you, as you probably could guess, just by the nature of who I am. But one of the things that bothers me is I just don't like the federal government dictating to us as a state what we should be doing. We're California. The whole way that the union was set up was that states had individual rights to make these decisions on their own, and they're trying to tell us, they're trying to shove it down our throats that this is how we should act, and I just am not in favor of that. And besides everything else that you said, this is just people trying to be good humans, so I'm 100% in favor of this thing.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Wilsheimer?
Yeah, I agree with the previous two speakers. I'm an immigrant myself. I moved to the U.S. in 1982 and became a citizen in the year 1999. I am a legal immigrant, but I'm appalled by what the current administration is currently doing. Their way of enforcing the law is to me completely inappropriate. And there are other ways to do it. I think the U.S. needs a major reform of the immigration law. And unfortunately, with the current situation in Washington, that's not going to happen for the next couple of decades, I think. So it's very unfortunate. And but I agree, this is a California decision. And the current administration is always claiming that they are in favor of the state's rights, except when it doesn't fit into their program. So I completely agree. This is a California decision, a California issue. It's our decision, so I'll support this.
Councilmember Turner?
Yes, I believe that as a council member, I must consider the citizens of Monte Sereno above all else. And we have received, a number of letters against the brief. I know that some of the views I know that the council members, 4 of you, have said, yes, you want to support this brief. However, when I look at it, it doesn't seem to me that we have taken the input from the citizens. So I think Monte Sereno is better served by staying out of situations like this.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to weigh in, and I'll try not to go very long, but again, when I first saw this, I thought it was important enough for the council to see this letter and to make sure that everybody understood what it was talking about and that everybody had a chance to express their opinion and to give the community a chance to speak on it. When I first saw this letter, I immediately said that, yes, we have to jump in and support this, but I wanted to jump in and support it with the reasoning that this is the best thing for the city. This is not my own personal political beliefs, even though they happen to coincide with this particular issue. Attending a number of different government meetings that we participate in through our boards and committees, I have talked to a lot of people, or I've heard a lot of talk about this issue, and the one thing that they talk about in the brief that I find very compelling is that this is the best for our communities, that we are sending firemen, EMTs, police into areas that are sometimes populated by large numbers of undocumented immigrants. We need their help, we need their support, and if we're going to create this atmosphere where every time they stick their head out the door, they're going to have to fear being black bagged and hauled off to some black site, which is essentially what's happened to a lot of them, and that's some of the things that these laws are meant to address. I feel that this is something that we need to step in and make a stand on. Talking to people in the county, for example, that are being asked to go on enforcement raids, but they turn out to be roundup raids. They're asking us to do their job. They're asking us to spend our money. They're asking the county to give up its money that they would put towards public services and do the work of the federal government. The federal government has had many, many years to try to fix this problem. They have failed to do so, and they continue to not do anything, as we've seen over the past number of administrations. And it's not just one side versus the other side. Both sides have failed on the immigration issue. The other thing that I need to say, because I hear this time and time again, is that none of this means that we are not protecting our borders. We do not have an open door policy. You can't go to Sacramento and ask anybody in Sacramento, why aren't we doing anything to stop the undocumented immigrants from coming into our country? Why do we just let them all in here and we give them services and we give them funds to take care of themselves? That's not the case. But they do come here. They come through a lot of hardship to get here. And at this point, they are supposed to go through a process with the federal government to be able to stay here. And we're not even giving them that opportunity anymore. So for those reasons, I feel that we should support this because this is an issue that does affect the city. It affects us because money that the county would normally give to us in fire services and sheriff services and EMT services and health services for the county hospital services are not being put to that use because we're being required to do the work of the federal government. And so I'm going to support this issue. And are there any other questions or comments? At this time, I'd like to see if there's any members of the public who would like to weigh in on this. Okay, seeing no other comments, I want to bring it back. And I want to say one other thing. Yes, we did get 3 letters, but I have talked to over a dozen people, and I have been approached by my neighbors, not only on this subject, but other subjects regarding the different, I want to say, issues that are occurring with the immigration policies that are going on right now. And we do have a lot of support out there in the city. You know, yes, we did get 3 letters, but I can guarantee you that there are dozens of people out there that do support us, and I have personally talked to them. So do not feel like we're going against the will of the city. Okay? So at this time, I would like to see if there's a motion to move forward with this letter. We have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second.
Proud to make that motion.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. Have buttons.
Okay, I have all votes are in.
Please record the vote. Okay, so the motion passes. So at this point, I think our city clerk will figure out how we get our name on that letter, correct? All right, thank you. And that takes us to item number 8, which is the Santa Clara Library Outpost Project Update. And
Good
Jerry,
evening,
were you
Mayor
gonna
and council
that one?
members. Yes, I'll give you a quick, brief presentation based on the staff report. So staff is bringing forward this item. We have apprised you of, the situation regarding the potential for using the building next door as a library outpost. But we, as I indicated in a memo that I sent to you previously, we wanted to bring this to you formally so we could present this to the public, as well as to get your feedback on any options, if any, you'd like for us to consider moving forward. So it's just briefly, during the budget process for this fiscal year's budget, staff had recommended that a placeholder be put into the budget for some upgrades, ADA, as well as restroom facilities and some other repairs to the building next door that would need to be incurred in order to make it usable really for any use, but in this case it was potentially as a library outpost where the library would have limited amount of services. And so with that direction in the budget, staff proceeded to work with the library on what that possibly what form that would take. And at the end of the day, the form was basically to offer some services to the community where books and materials could be reserved. They could be delivered to a red box-like device where they would be dropped off next door. Patrons would have access to the space, could go in, gather their materials. There was also the possibility of adding additional equipment, which would allow people to browse other items that they might also check out. So that was kind of the gist of what the services what might be. The county library staff put together a survey, which they sent out and posted on Nextdoor. We posted it on Nextdoor, and they used their channels of communication to the public electronically. And the survey was left out long enough to gather enough respondents to consider it to be a valid number of responses, which we did receive just exactly about the right amount. And based on that, as you can see, we've attached the survey results to the staff report. Let me get the numbers exactly. So the majority of respondents, almost 64%, stated that they were either neutral, somewhat unlikely, or very unlikely to use the facilities as I described. So based on that, it just didn't make any sense for us to pursue that option any further. So tonight we're presenting you with the actual results of the survey and letting you know that we as staff, believe that based on responses from the community, that there's not enough need for this type of service. But we would like to see if you had any other thoughts or ideas. And we certainly could pursue those as well. I did outline some of the restrictions that are imposed on this because of the zoning for the site. As you well know, we are a city of residential uses with very limited non-residential uses. And in this case, this site is really zoned for public facilities, emergency shelters, which is a state law requirement, churches, community centers, which really means facilities like a senior center or teen center or those kinds of facilities you see in many communities, public recreation facilities, and then, of course, an accessory building exceeding one per lot, and that's just a quirk of the zoning ordinance, in my opinion. But the bottom line is we're just seeking your input. If you have any other ideas you would like us to proceed with, we certainly can do some investigating into those. And with that, if you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay, thank you very much. Are there any comments? Okay. Seeing no comments, I'd like to open this up to the public to see if they have any comments. And seeing no comments from the audience, I will bring it back. And Terry, was this just an informational update? There's no action required?
There's no action required, but as I said, I would say I would like to hear, if I could, from the council, a majority. We do have a line item budgeted to do some improvements, as I mentioned. It would be good to hear, do you wish us to pursue other options? And if not, say so. That's, of course, perfectly fine. But if you would like us to pursue other options, given the parameters of what's permitted, what are your thoughts? And if there's a consensus on some other possibility, we certainly can work on that.
Okay. So, yes.
Do we have to have a response for you tonight, or can we hold off on this and think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. If we can certainly re-agendize this at a later date. But the bill, as I may have mentioned to you before, the building we had an inspection some time ago. The roof's good. We painted it outside. We run the HVAC on a very low level, but so we're maintaining the conditioned air inside and taking good care of the building. So it's not going anywhere and it's not deteriorating. So we certainly can come back to you at a later time and get your ideas. So I would say, if that was necessarily the consensus of the council, just let us know this is on hold, and we'll get back and we'll come back at a later date.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Wilsheimer.
This may be a perfect opportunity to ask for the residents' input. They were very clear. They do not want a library, the majority of the people who responded, but maybe we should ask them, what do you want, if not a library?
Well, and I think we did get a number of those responses.
Actually, there were several that wanted the post office back.
Yeah. I saw that. Okay. Well, I would just like to say something very quickly, and the first one is my personal apologies, because I don't think I did a great service to the city in not kind of stopping the train wreck that this whole issue became, because this started off as the city getting some money in their budget and wanting to take a building that we're not utilizing properly and turn it into a public resource. And at the same time, the Santa Clara County Library, we had $35,000 set aside. For that, we could do some very, very minimal updates. We do need to update the restroom facilities. The carpet is pretty gross in there. An inside paint job would definitely be well deserved, and we could have just stuck some chairs in there and probably had some public meetings in there, or set up some kind of a book reading club or something along that line. And the opportunity came along when the Santa Clara County Library, which I do sit on the board for the city, had a plan to expand service throughout the county. They've been testing a number of different tools, one of them being bookmobiles. We have 2 bookmobiles now. We recently just got an electronic bookmobile where we're sending out to some of the more remote locations. One of the things that we consistently hear is that our residents in the county need more access to the library. And one of the things that they wanted to test was a kiosk. And I never was able to communicate properly. I tried a couple times on Nextdoor, but a lot of people kept thinking that this was going to be a cost incurred by the city with ongoing costs incurred by the city, and that they did not want the city to incur any costs. We have a lot of residents who still believe that this city was formed and it was not supposed to offer a whole lot of government services. Minimal government service is really what I heard a lot when the city was being formed. So this whole, let's have a community center where we're going to get some money from the library, and we were going to get $100,000. So we're going to take like a very small amount of money, and we were going to leverage that by almost 3 times. And we were going to be able to build a really nice facility. I was looking forward to putting some electronic monitors in there. We could probably put some nice tables, some cushier chairs, maybe a couch, and we would get most of our funding from the library. They set aside $100,000 in their budget. And this whole topic got hijacked from, let's make this a community center, but let's let the library try something out for a year to see if this might be something useful. I personally would have used it because I check out items from the library all the time, and I find myself, here it is, 9 o'clock, and I got to return my item. I got to drive all the way to Saratoga and return it when I could drive 6 minutes from my house to the city and drop it into a kiosk. I thought that would have been a pretty good idea, but it never turned out that way. That offer is now removed and it's off the table. They're going to be looking at another location to put this kiosk. The kiosk is going in no matter what because the county already has the money to fund it. In fact, they have it at their office right now. They gave us a tour of it during one of their last public demonstrations. I do hope that we do continue to look for a use of the building so that it can be used for the community. I hope we're able to fix it up. Again, change, make the carpet, and we might have to put in a little bit more than $35,000. My guess is we'll probably need $50,000 or $60,000 now. But I think it can be a great community benefit. When I got people one-on-one and actually took them to the building, and we talked about it, and I explained that we were going to make this building an ADA compatible build or ADA compliant building, and that we were going to have a kiosk and what the kiosk would do. And the library didn't want it to be a library annex. They just wanted to come in maybe once or twice a week and run some type of a program, a children's program, an adult reading program, a book club meeting. It wasn't going to be used as a regular library. But all those opportunities are now gone. We probably won't ever get a shot at it again. So now it's really up to the city to do whatever we would like to do with the building. So as Councilmember Anstany said, our time here is short, but I do want to leave the future council members with a charge to do something really cool with that building. I think our city deserves it. I think our city will make use of it. And always never be afraid to try something because, again, we weren't married to this. It was going to be a year-long project. We would get $100,000. You don't get people just handing out money like that these days. And I feel really bad that we let this opportunity slip. So I guess with that, we're going to close this item. And we'll come back later on after we've kind of polled the public and let the council members think about it. And
I think what I would suggest we do is, and I think the idea of surveying residents in some fashion is a great one, is that maybe what a staff can do is come up with what that might look like, what are the possibilities, and then that way we can bring that to the city council and say, here are our thoughts on what the possibilities are, and this is what we might poll the community on. And I think that if that would work for everyone, that's what we will do. Does that seem reasonable?
Yes.
yes.
It does.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, our last item of the night is our participation in the annual Los Gatos Holiday Parade. So, Andrea, you're usually our parade coordinator.
Well, thank you. This will be your fastest staff report. The parade is December 1st, Saturday, December 1st. It usually lasts all morning from about, 7:30 to about 1 o'clock. If the council chooses to be in it this year, that's what I'm here to find out, if you can participate. If you want the same entry in previous years, we've talked to Mr. Varney. He's been gracious enough to not only let us borrow, but I believe he's your driver too. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. If you still want to do that, I need to register the entry by October 26th, if you are so interested. And I think it holds up to about 15 people, so guests are welcome.
Okay, thank you very much.
And he gave me a tour of his garage.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yes,
I've
it
always
was
wanted
pretty
to see
cool.
that garage.
He had
I hear it's
60
got a
cars
lot of
in
neat
there.
cars in there.
How many does he have?
60.
Yeah,
60?
60?
Wow.
A big garage.
And then also just to let some of our candidates out there know that elected, or what's the term? Duly, Just anybody who's actually been elected but hasn't actually been seated is invited to ride on the bus with us also.
I add something. It's really fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We're usually very early. We're usually in the first 50 floats that go off, and so we leave it starts at 11. We're usually on our way by 11:15 and done by 11:30.
And he brings the drinks.
And Curtis brings an outstanding Bloody
But that's
Mary.
not legal, so we won't talk
okay.
about that.
Violates the rules.
No alcohol, just drinks.
But it's red, so.
It's red.
One thing, so it sounds like we have consensus that we want to do it.
Yep.
Okay. The only thing I wanted to add is maybe some new banners for the year. Would you guys like to see new banners this year? We've had those last banners for like 20 years.
Who's going to design them?
I don't know. You are.
That's what scares me. I know you guys look at me to do this, huh?
I established a committee of you and I,
Okay, we'll figure it out.
and we'll figure it out. Unless anybody else would like to be on the committee.
The banner committee.
The banner, you and I can do the banner committee.
Banner committee. All right. Well, with that, I think we move into committee and commission reports.
Is there anyone from the public who wants to speak on this?
Oh, okay. Would anybody on the public like to speak about this item? Yes. You bring the quail in? Okay. Well, one of the banners does have our city logo on it on one side. So there's actually, we have two separate banners. One says Monte Sereno City Council, and the other one says Monte Sereno. And I'm tired of that banner.
Was it really?
Yes.
What does it say?
Monte Sereno.
Spelled wrong.
I was going to say, are you kidding me?
Snoreno.
It's a joke.
No, it's the real banner.
I didn't notice it. And I've done the parade like 6 times.
Am I wrong on that?
I don't
Never
think
noticed
so.
I would encourage the city council to not use that one.
Does it say that, Marshall?
I never saw that.
I never saw that either.
Well, but you don't see it if you're in the bus.
Yeah,
We've had to help put that thing up every
that's
year.
right,
I
yeah.
just don't remember.
I'd be surprised. But
Well, we certainly have budget to create some new ones, so we'll work with this subcommittee. or the
spell
committee-
check the
subcommittee.
banner, that would be
Yes,
a good
we'll
thing.
spell check the banner.
Maybe you should call the meeting to order.
No, we're on committee and commission reports. All right. So we'll start with Councilmember Turner.
No.
No reports. No reports.
No
Councilmember
reports.
Grandstanding.
I've got one real
Rogers.
quick. The West Valley Clean Water Administration is hiring a new director, and so we interviewed some people, and we made a decision, but I can't really say who it is because I don't know that they've accepted the job yet, but I think we have a new director. That's it.
Okay. And I don't have anything. Let's get this thing moving here. Go to council member comments. Any comments? I see all the heads shaking. I'm not going to make any more comments tonight. And city manager report.
Just 2 things. The Great Shakeout, Thursday,
Yeah.
this week, 10:18 a.m. It is a reminder to everyone in California that we live in a state with seismic activity, and it can be intense. I encourage you to check the city's website. We have loaded onto there a link to all the things that you need to do to prepare yourself and to practice at 10:18 a.m. what you are going to do in the event of an earthquake. Duck under your desk. Make sure you've cleared out plenty of space. I walk around City Hall and make sure everyone can fit under their desk at 10:18 on Thursday. So I encourage you to do the same.
Thank you very much.
The only other thing is the Better Streets Commission met last week, and we had mostly updates on all the great things that we've been working on in terms of improving our streets. But we did have one item in particular which was related to Andrews Street, and I thought I'd give you a quick verbal update. There was a group, I apologize, have I talked about this publicly to you? No, I have not. So, and I will send you more detail in an email, but I just want to give you a quick lowdown. Some residents in the city were interested in increasing pedestrian and bicycle safety on Andrews, particularly from San Benito in Los Gatos, where it goes to the top of the hill, which technically is all in the city of Los Gatos. So our residents petitioned the town And through that process, the town, through the Parks and Public Works Department, responded that they would be willing, of course, to assist in some way to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety. The initial proposal that they came up with was to add a sidewalk all the way from San Benito basically to Rose. That project came in at almost $1 million. Based on that, what I did was I requested the Parks and Public Works Director, our city engineer, and the residents meet with myself as a group to come up, brainstorm some ideas on what else we might do. And we came up with a great option, which is considerably less. Basically, it would to increase the paved area on the north side of the street to have an area somewhat similar to what we have along Highway 9. It wouldn't be raised, but it leaves plenty of space for pedestrian. So long story short, the price for that improvement to the town actually fell within an existing contract that they already have set up. So instead of having to wait until potentially February to make a mid-year budget adjustment with the town council, it looks like we're going to be able to wrap that into a current contract, and they will actually be able to do the work next month. So the Better Streets Commission came up with some additional ideas for markings on the street, signs, and a number of other minor things that we can add in to overall create a really, safe space for folks to walk back and forth. And I must publicly commend the town and the director of the Parks and Public Works, Matt Morley. I think they've just been amazing to work with, and in this case, it really benefits almost exclusively our residents, and the town is willing to pay for all of this. So I think it was, as they say, a real win-win for everyone. So I just wanted to give you an update, and I'll put more of this in writing and send it to the council as a whole.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Randstanding.
Yeah, I just want to compliment our city manager on this as well. I was approached by two of our residents, one that lives on Rose and another that lives just around the corner from here in one of the courts, and their kids go down Andrews on their way to school. And I brought the issue to Terry, and Terry then worked with Matt from the town and really worked hard at getting something accomplished. And I was really thrilled to get it finished, to get it to the finish line, but especially even having the town pay for it. And I think we should think about that in the future, because periodically when we're supporting some parks issues and supporting some of the events that go on in the town, there are a lot of good reasons why it's a good expenditure of our money to support them, because they in this case have clearly supported us, because it was totally everything was in their jurisdiction. So I just think it's overall a really great effort, and I just want to thank you for your hard work on it.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, very good. So on November the 6th, we will not be holding a meeting, as this facility will be used as a polling place. So I will adjourn this meeting until November the 20th. And thank you all very much for coming tonight.
Kara, did you ever hear anything from Julie about the Ridgecrest?
She will be in tomorrow.
Okay.
She's out on Tuesday, so
Yeah.
I sent an email.
You can let me know.